Hello everyone, Silent here and welcome back to another Bedrock Edition tutorial. Today I'll be showing you how to build a very simple and very efficient honey farm for the Bedrock Edition of Minecraft. This farm can of course be used for honey bottles and honeycomb alike, and it's also optimized for large-scale honey farming as well. As I'm sure you're aware, there is a ton of different honey farms out there, and most of them work just fine. However, honey farms are extremely slow, only producing 1 to 2 honey bottles per Minecraft day, which is extremely slow and tedious. So if you want to get yourself a bunch of honey blocks or a bunch of honey bottles or honeycombs, then you're going to need to build a large farm, and most designs are not optimized for large scale farming. So I went ahead and designed a specific bee farm specifically for large scale designs so that you can get the most honeycombs and the most amount of honey as fast as possible. And here is the honey farm I will be showing you how to build in today's video. As you can see, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, and about what you would expect from a honey farm. The redstone at the back isn't very complicated or expensive either, and as you can see, this thing has produced a very large amount of honey and not too long of a time. So again, pretty much no matter which honey farm you build, each cell will only produce about 2 honey bottles per day, which again is not that much, hence why you need to build a very large farm. This is a rather small segment just for demonstration purposes, but you can build this design pretty much as big as you want to. So before we get into the tutorial for that honey farm right there, let's quickly take a look at a bunch of different honey farm designs and talk about why these things are good or not so good for the different farming purposes. So here is the extremely basic honey farm design that you've probably seen on just about everyone's channel. It reads when the beehive is full of honey, and then it activates a dispenser to either fill up some honey bottles or shear it and get you honeycomb. The thing about this is it's not made for large scale farming because you need to have 9 stacks of bottles in every single slice of the farm, and that gets very expensive. That's 3 stacks of glass per slice, so most of you probably don't want to craft that many bottles or destroy your entire desert. So next up we have a tiny little farm that I designed, and this one is pretty awesome for honeycombs. However, it's not very good for honey bottles. If you try and put bottles in here, it's going to shoot out a lot of empty bottles, and it's not going to be very great. However, go ahead and put some shears in there and you have yourself an amazing honeycomb farm immediately, just with 1 observer and 2 redstone torches. Overall, would highly recommend for a honeycomb. Next up, we have another very simple farm that I designed, and this one only reads from a single beehive, unlike all these other designs that read from every single beehive. The cons of this one is that it's actually much slower. It only activates all of the beehives for harvesting once the very end one fills up. However, it doesn't need that much redstone, it's very easy to build, doesn't use that many bottles, and it also works for honeycombs. If you want to see what I'm talking about in more detail, here is the basics of the farm. As you can see, there's no actual redstone out the backside. We just have a hopper chest going around to fill up the bottles, and then we have an item filter. Overall, it's pretty messy, it's not really worth it, so I wouldn't recommend it. And finally, we get to the best bee farm in this video that I'll be showing you how to build in the tutorial today. And as you can see, it's actually a rather simple and easy to build design, although it is a tiny bit more expensive than the other bee farms that I've shown you already. So the main pros of this one is that of course it harvests the honey immediately as soon as the bee farm gets full of honey. As you can see there, it shoots the honey into your collection system. This farm is best for large scale honey farms because it needs very few bottles. At any given time, you need a minimum of 1 bottle in the bottom dispenser and like 2 bottles in the top dropper. Obviously, you can fill this thing up with bottles if you want to, but you only ever need like 2 bottles in here, so it's extremely light and great for large scale farming. Now, there is one con to this particular farm, and that it needs a very small modification if you want it to build facing south. However, I'll show you that in the tutorial. So this is more or less what the farm will look like once you have completed building it. Obviously, you'll likely build it much larger, however. So as you can see, the redstone at the back isn't really that daunting. We have a bottle delivery line at the top to deliver bottles to all of your different slices. And of course, you only ever need the 1 bottle in there and a couple bottles in the top droppers. Not too big of a deal, works extremely well for large scale farming. Each slice will give you 2 bottles per day, and all of the items go directly into a storage system, no hopper minecarts needed. And let's hop into the tutorial, shall we? Each slice of this farm is going to be a single block wide, of course, and it's going to be a total of 10 blocks long to include the entirety of the farm. Now, the maximum that the farm will ever be is 6 blocks above the ground. Also, there will be a full materials list for this build down in the description of the video. If you want to know exactly what materials you need to build your honey farm, look in the description and all of your needs will be met. So we're going to start off a building with this little template right here. We have a glass block for the very front wall to contain the bees, 1 hopper facing to the side. For our item collection, we might replace that with a hopper minecart later in the tutorial. We have a flower, and the beehive is actually going to be placed right here. However, we'll place that at the end of the tutorial. So the first thing that you want to do is place a block right here with a comparator going out of that into another block. You want 2 pieces of redstone dust, 1 more block up, and a piece of glass right there. Continue that up with 1 more block, and then just place 3 pieces of redstone dust above all of those. Get yourself a trapdoor of any type right there, and then a observer facing that trapdoor. We now need a repeater on 4 ticks above that observer, and both of these things should be facing into a block with a redstone torch on the back side of it. Here is the cross section of what you should have built thus far, and as you can see, it is a pretty simple build process. Now we need to go ahead and place a solid block right in front of that torch right there, and just place a hopper facing downwards into it. We can now go ahead and remove that block, remove a block downwards so that we can face towards the bottom of the hopper. We need a dropper facing downwards and then a dispenser facing downwards as well. Go ahead and fill in the hole, and it's very important that this one is a dropper and the bottom one be a dispenser. That way the entire farm works. Go ahead and place a powered rail on top of that hopper right there, and that is a single slice, pretty much completely done. Obviously, you're going to need to build a bunch of these slices right next to each other, so let me go ahead and do that real quick, and I'll show you what it should look like. And there we go, I've now built 10 of these cells next to each other, and the reason why I'm building a 10 is because you want to build these in blocks of 10. Bees have a pretty bad pathfinding, and it can take them a very long time to get back into their beehive. So if you build this like, 20 blocks long, a bee could be 20 blocks away from its hive, and it's basically never going to get back in there. So I would suggest building 10 of these at a time, and then simply putting a divider wall in between your 2 sections, and then the next one would be like right here. So literally just like a 1 block gap, just to keep the bees relatively close to their beehives. So with that little explanation out of the way, let's go ahead and finish up this thing. So first things first, we want to go ahead and encase this entire thing in blocks. So on either side, put 2 solid blocks, just like so. That'll keep the bees in and also the items going into the correct hoppers. You then also want to surround this thing in a 2 wall tall of glass, going all the way around it, and just put a glass roof over this thing as well. You can probably replace the glass with solid blocks and not have any difference, but it is kind of nice to see the bees, see the beehives, and make sure that everything is working. Now we're going to finish up the rail line on the top of the farm, so go to the left side and place 2 blocks in these locations. You want a powered rail right there. Go to about the middle of the farm and place down a piece of glass with a lever on top of it right there, and that'll power all of your rails. And now you can go to the right side of the farm, place another 2 solid blocks up like so, a powered rail right there, replace this rail with a normal rail, and then you can put a lever right there for your chest minecart. This is going to be delivering bottles to all of your different cells, so you can just go ahead and fill that up with as many bottles as you'd like or as you need. And if you want to have that thing automatically refill, you can put a hopper right there pointing into it with a double chest above it for additional bottle storage, depending on the size of your farm. Now, you want to make sure that your farm never runs out of bottles. every single bee farm in the game breaks if it runs out of bottles, at least all the ones that I've seen have, so make sure there is always an adequate supply of glass bottles. Before we install the beehives, there is a couple small modifications to the farm that you might want to make, depending on how exactly you want the farm to run. So first of all, if you built the farm facing south, then you might be running into this issue where the honey bottles would get shot out into the circuitry of the farm, which obviously is not a good thing. This only happens when you build it facing south, so that's a good thing, and it's actually an extremely easy fix. All you need to do is remove this redstone torch and that block, place an observer right where that block used to be, and a block right there. And now all the bottles will be shot out into the storage system as they should be. The final modification to this farm that you might need to make or might want to make is replacing the hopper line with a hopper minecart underneath the farm, just for collecting all of your items in a different way. Of course, this is a very easy thing. We just need to come down here, remove these blocks, remove all of these hoppers, and simply replace them with grass or some other solid block. Doesn't really matter what you have above them. You then want a powered rail line underneath these blocks going into a hopper, and this hopper is simply going to point into your storage system of choice. Put a powered rail on top of the hopper and a normal rail right in front of it. You will then want a lever above that powered rail and a hopper minecart on it right there. Place another lever right here for powering all of those, and now we have item collection installed using a hopper minecart. This could be significantly cheaper depending on the size of your farm, and you will also need to install a hopper minecart for item collection if you built your farm facing south. So if you have to replace this block with an observer and get rid of that torch, then you will need to install a hopper minecart underneath your flowers. Because of the item physics, all of your honey bottles will land where your flowers are. Once you have fully constructed your farm and double checked all your redstone, we can finally go ahead and finish off the thing. So you want to make sure that there is one bottle in each of the lower dispensers, only one bottle, that way everything functions as it should. Now we can go ahead and install our beehives, and you want to do this at nighttime, that way all the bees actually stay in the beehives. Each of your beehives should have 3 bees in it for maximum efficiency, and that way you get the most honey the quickest. So once you've done that, you can go ahead and fill up your minecart chest up here with some bottles, and just go ahead and turn that thing on and let it give bottles to each of your top droppers. You don't need that many bottles. Once again, the entire point of this design is to not need that many bottles, but throw as many in there as you think you'll need. And once it turns daytime, all of your bees will hop out of their beehives, and you should see some of your redstone comparators back here actually turn on, and you'll see how much honey is in each of your beehives. Once these things actually are ready to harvest, of course, the entire system will activate. Your lower dispenser will get filled up with a honey bottle, and then it'll shoot that honey bottle out into your collection line. The top dropper will then shoot another glass bottle into your lower dispenser, resetting the system and allowing you to keep on harvesting honey. And that's pretty much all there is to this bee farm tutorial. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please do let me know if a comment down below. I'm always trying to help you guys out as much as I possibly can. If you enjoyed today's tutorial, please do leave a like on the video, as it helps out the video and the channel significantly. Maybe consider sharing the video with somebody who you think might enjoy it. And if you're new here and you want to see more videos like this in the future, then also consider subscribing as well. That is the thing to do on YouTube. Join the silence. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you down in the comments and in the next one. And then there was silence.